Is there a lot of overlap between playing music and doing art and writing?
Not so much. Um, not as much of a direct link, because I really do think, that there's just a lot of differences, playing, but at the same time, there are things like, I know that if I want to get good at playing, I play fiddle is one of my things. I play violin. I grew up playing classical violin, but now, as someone who's really into like old country and blues and that kind of music, I play fiddle. So, and if I want to get good at a fiddle song, I have to just, play it over and over and over again. And there are takeaway lessons from that. There might not be a direct link to the story. And honestly, I can't play the fiddle and think about a story, let my imagination float in that direction. It's going to be held on the music. But the kind of lesson of, if you want to get something right, you gotta sometimes just really practice. You got to do it over and over again. And that might be something to take to a particular scene, that if I feel like it's not working, it's like, I'm just going to keep rewriting. I'm going to do this over and over again until I get it right. Or, that kind of stick to itness of how to get better at something.
I'm definitely going to take your rule of six with me, because usually when I find a solution, I say, it came to me from the muse. It must be its divine providence. That's the one. I'm just being lazy, because there's probably 5 other perfectly good solutions that
you
might
never
be.
know. Yeah. It's worth going a little deeper into it, and something about 6 to me has been that kind of magic number of, if I can push to 6, it's not that the 6th idea will be the best idea, but it'll often be that all 6 of those ideas together almost like come together with a 7th possibility or something, or maybe the first 5 help to guide the 6th to be the strongest idea. So. And sometimes you go back and you're like, that first idea was actually the best idea, so that your instincts were right all along, and it's good to confirm that.
That makes me feel better than whoo.
Yeah.
So how do you judge when you've had a successful day? If you spend it with the 6 different ideas, do you go for a word count? Or is it, I was here all day working on the book and that counts?
Yeah, it's just showing up for work. It's attendance is everything. It's not I don't do a word count or a page. I don't necessarily set a goal for myself like that. Although occasionally I might, if I'm, say, working on a chapter and I think, ooh, I might be able to finish this chapter today, then I might kind of just set that as a goal, like, okay, I'm going to really try to get this chapter finished. But otherwise, no, some days are just spent pacing around the office trying to think of a 5th and 6th solution to a problem, and then just ending the day not having necessarily gotten there with it. And that might feel like a bad day, but I was still at work and I was still making. And I often find that even when I feel frustrated on an aspect like that, and maybe I do get to the end of the workday and I don't feel like I've gotten a satisfying solution on it, then I'm often surprised at how, I have my evening to myself. I do, we watch some TV together, or we'd go for a walk as a family or do something, and then I go to bed and I don't think about the story. And then I'll wake up the next day and I'll walk up to my office and I see the notes that I had from the day before, and all of a sudden I'm surprised how often it's like, that's it. That's what I need to do. It's, again, back to that subconscious. The brain, just because you feel frustrated doesn't mean that the brain isn't working on it. And I feel like there's a wonderful book called Imagine by Jonah Lehrer, Lehrer, and it's on the neuroscience of creativity. And he gathers a lot of scientific research. And I feel like that was one of the things, if I'm remembering it correctly, that he was saying that when you often feel frustration on trying to develop an idea, it is the fact that the left side of the brain, the more logical, rational side, is often the first one to try to work out solutions, which makes sense. You want to have kind of a logical solution to it. But that when those aren't working and you start to feel that frustration, that it is actually the brain starting to shift the workload over to the right side of the brain, which is going to be the more intuitive, the more insightful side. It's the side that sometimes connects ideas that don't seem like they logically fit together. So that frustration might actually be your brain doing the right work involved to come up with a solution. So to not to not try to avoid feeling frustration, but just to be with it and know that, and to trust that a good outcome, a good idea is on the way.
I have found, and I tend to think of these things more in magical terms, even though there's more than enough evidence to prove that that's not the case. Just because I almost get a little bit nervous that if I look too closely at what's going on in my brain, then I'll ruin the magic that's going on.
Yeah, sure.
But if I have a day where I'm really frustrated that nothing happened, and then I'm walking around later just kicking myself and like, come on, Kent, call yourself a writer. What'd you do today? And then the idea comes the next day. It's like, it was divine providence. The magic came all along. So yesterday was fine. It's good because that was the magic happening. Right. But the neuroscience thing makes way more sense.
but I think that there's something to what you're saying though, of like that it can looking behind the curtain too much can spoil some of the effect that that kind of that belief, that almost like magical thinking kind of thing has a great role too. I think it helps us to be more intuitive about things and a little less logical. And what is creativity if not intuition often? Having to go with your gut.
I think part of it might be that I read The Art of Fiction by Ayn Rand forever ago, and I always called it "We have ways of making you right" because Ayn Rand is this great villain in my mind, and rightfully so.
Yeah, for sure.
I always, whenever I trash Ayn Rand, I always give her credit. That what an excellent novelist, what an excellent arguer, essayist, might be a better term, and good for her being a woman in the time that she was and standing up and saying, "You will listen to me, world." Good for Ayn Rand. She gets credit for all of that. Unfortunately, her idea is just terrible. Don't try to apply them. Alan Greenspan, why did you take her serious? What'd you do? But she has a whole section in her book about it's the subconscious mind working problems out. And as soon as I read that, I was like, ooh, that makes a lot of sense. But do I want to be the sort of person that agrees with Ayn Rand? That's part of my prejudice against the idea.
Yeah.